All righty then. This is voting list number 24, Friday, April 9th, 2021. I am the chairman, Kumar Barve, joined by my vice chairman, Dana Stein, and all the members of my committee who are looking very happy because I think they probably got a decent meal somewhere there. Okay, we're going to go through all the bills on this voting list. Apparently, Senate Bill 184 was not voted on in subcommittee, so that's off the list. Senate Bill 184 is held. And so let us begin, and then we're going to have a couple of concurrences as well.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, we can take that back up at our next subcommittee meeting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that.
House Bill 943.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 943 is favorable with amendments, and this bill as amended authorizes the Community Development Administration within the Department of Housing and Community Development to administer the Live Near Your School program. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 authorizes instead of requires the CDA to administer the programs, authorizes the use of available funds, resources, program oversight, marketing, and loan distribution in the home buyer assistance program, and alters the definition of current student and recent graduate under the home buyer assistance program of Live Near Your School program. And amendment number 3 sunsets the provisions of the bill to 3-year period. Move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any debate on the amendments? All right, we'll vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, the ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. So now,
Move the bill as amended, Mr. Chair.
and it does not have, it doesn't have a gigantic fiscal note anymore, does it?
That is correct.
Okay. Doesn't even have a teeny one either, right?
Also correct.
Okay.
You must have been reading my mind.
Yes, that's exactly what I was doing. Okay, on the bill, any discussion? Delegate Parrott.
Thank you. If it doesn't have a fiscal note, what does the bill do? I thought that's what it was supposed to do, is give loans to people.
It authorizes the loan program for the for the students. Authorizes.
So that would be up to the governor then to fund it?
Exactly.
It's correct.
Okay.
It creates the program, so hopefully someday it'll get funded.
Yeah, so Neil, when you become governor of the state of Maryland, we're hoping that you put lots of money into that.
Yes.
Okay, on the bill, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, looks like it passed unanimous among those present.
We are missing one person, but
Who are we missing?
I believe Delegate Jalisi is not in here.
Jay, are you out there? Nope. Okay, so it's unanimous among those present. Okay, Senate Bill 637, which
Senate Bill 637, Mr. Chair, is a crossfire of the one we just voted favorably upon. This bill, Senate Bill 637, has no amendments because it was previously amended before us receiving it. I move Senate Bill 637, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill passes unanimously among those present. Senate Bill 4.
Do you want to leave the room, Chairman Barbe?
No.
Senate Bill 4 prohibits an official or employee from retaliating against an individual for reporting or participating in an investigation of a potential violation of the public ethics law. It also prohibits an official or employee from knowingly accepting a gift from an entity that the official knows or has reason to know is an association that's engaged in representing counties or municipal corporations, subject to existing exceptions.
So MACO and MML.
Yep.
Okay, we have a few questions here. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Delegate Lehman and Delegate Weigel in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the motion and the second is on the amendment, correct?
No, it's on the bill because the bill came to us as amended.
Oh, I see. And this is a concurrence or,
No, it's
Nope.
just that the Senate bill was amended before it left the Senate.
okay,
So
okay. So yeah,
how
my-
the bill, SB 4 and HB 363 came in as solely closing this loophole on retaliation in the that they added the MAKO and MML amendment. House, we passed it without that.
okay.
Senate bill is
So-
coming to us with all in one piece. We're not amending it.
Thank you for the clarification. So my question and comment is about the MML and the MAKO amendment. Just, wanting some context. I think this has come up in years past. And I think I'm probably one of a number of people that were contacted on the committee to say that, this does not seem fair to these organizations because their state counterparts and state government that are lobbying, advocating on behalf of, government are not included in this. And that it's not fair for them to be. Thoughts, comments? I kind of agree, but where did this, come from? What is the impetus? And isn't it true that this has been put forward in years past and then taken out, I think?
So my understanding is, this is an ethics bill that closes loopholes. And there was some idea that it was in fact a loophole that MML and MAKO were not included as lobbying entities. And so it made
That
sense.
is not so. I was here then. That was deliberate decision.
Okay.
Okay, Delegate Healy, I'm just
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm just trying to give my impression of how this went down. I think that, so, my understanding basically is that, MML and MAKO they do lobby, and that to protect members from any sort of, aspersions on, MML took that person, gave this person that gift or did that it would be cleaner if they were also covered. And so I think that, that's just how, so I think that's why this was put on, was just out of an abundance of caution and to treat lobbying entities in the same way.
Okay, so one other question, Mr. Chair, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so the addition of the MML, MAKO language, is that in the context of gifts, or is that the reporting retaliatory? Which part of it are they included in?
They're included in the gift provision. So lobbyists, we're not supposed to accept gifts from lobbyists, right? And so this just adds MAKO and MML to that.
Well, we're not supposed to live gifts.
With some exceptions.
De minimis, right? So
Right,
this thing
right,
is
with some exceptions. So this, yes. So this, or like you get a plaque from MAKO that has your name. Yes, it says congratulations,
So if it's cheap
right.
junk, we can get it.
Right, yeah. So I don't have a mug on me, but I'm sure, yes. So this is just, everybody's showing their stuff. Yes. So MAKO and MML will now be subject to those provisions as well.
Okay, and so again, because this came over from the Senate this way, it's not like there's an opportunity like yesterday with the climate action bill to vote against for or against the amendment, right? We're just voting on the amended bill. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll add that the same rule applies to entities that do business with the Maryland General Assembly, like hotels where members stay at, right? So it's trying to reach everybody in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Lehrman. Thank you.
Are you good, Mary? Okay. All right, Mary's good. So it's going to be the following delegates in this order: Wyville, Clark, Anderson, Otto, Healy, Wells. Wyville, go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sure after that cheap junk comment, you won't be getting any plaques from him.
Oh, I'm not getting any plaques from MML after today, that's for sure.
So I know I probably should have asked these questions in subcommittee this morning, but I guess I wasn't paying as close attention as I should have been. So can you clarify for me, Delegate Lehrman, governments are not considered lobbyists, correct? or Patrick or whoever.
I wish Dia was on. Governments are not considered lobbyists. That is correct.
So I guess my concern with this amendment is that a municipality or a county that's larger that can afford to buy or pay for their own employee to lobby or do whatever, they could be doing the exact same thing that MACO or MML could be doing. But under this amendment, MACO or MML is going to be forbidden from doing it. I'm thinking,
No, yes, but MACO and MML can still lobby, just like they always have. There's MML and MACO are not going to go away, right? They are still going to lobby just like they always have. Everybody will retain the same relationship that they have with MML and MACO, and
but the employee of the large county can take a legislator out to lunch or whatever, but MACO or MML wouldn't. It seems like it's creating
you can also pay for your own lunch.
And I do.
Right.
But
so it won't be a problem.
I'm not looking at it from myself. It's not about me.
Yeah.
Looking at it from the point of advantage versus disadvantage of a larger, this just seems like it creates more of a gap between the small rural municipalities who rely heavily on MACO and MML to lobby on their behalf, whereas the larger counties and municipalities can afford to buy and pay for their own employees. So one larger county can take a legislator out to dinner and pay for it. A smaller municipality that relies on MACO or MML cannot. It just seems like it's not a level playing field. And then the other question I had on this one, I know a lot of us attend their conferences, and I find those conferences to be valuable, not only in the networking aspect of it, but also, they have a lot of sessions that are relevant. And usually those registrations are comped for legislators. So I was trying to get a clarification on that aspect of it, is whether or not that registration would be considered a gift. I understand
those, as long as they invite everybody, they can still do that.
Right. So MML, I think, just sent theirs out the other day, and I think they invited everybody, but then they're limited. So I don't know if they are limited or they just had it in there.
No, they're limited. They're only limited because they're trying to my understanding is they're limited because of COVID, space restrictions. They
okay.
All
so
state
does that limitation then make them in violation of this?
No, if they let all state electeds, if they invite all of us, we can, and they say you will all be comped, that's fine.
So they can invite everybody, but still limited to the first 20, and they're not violating.
No, you can still go to if they invite everybody, which they have done, then it is fine. It's still comped.
What about, Brooke, what about 1 year I was invited to speak and they gave me a free hotel room?
If it's just you, then they would not be able to do that, I don't think.
So
I think they can if you're speaking.
Yes, if you're speaking, they can.
Oh, if you're speaking, they can? Okay, then we need D.
Yeah, I think, they can if you're speaking.
I also wanted to make sure folks know, this is also how we treat MABE, right? So Delegate Wyville was concerned about, whether it's not a level playing field for small counties or small municipalities versus big ones.
Yeah, but we don't like them because their lobbyist insulted the city of Baltimore 8 years ago. So there's
well, MABE is, they represent boards of elections.
Oh yeah, their lobbyist said, "Oh, it's just like The Wire. Baltimore City is." It was horrible.
And I will also say this is just like the Maryland Association of Community Colleges, right? Like they are also treated as lobbyists. The only entities right now that aren't are MML and MACO. And look, Baltimore City is both a member of MML and MACO. I understand all of these concerns, but I am, I think that this is we're trying to protect legislators and keep everything as transparent as possible.
Do we know where this amendment came from? Because originally it was just about
Senate.
retaliation.
It came from the Senate.
You could ask Senator
Edwards?
Yes,
Yep.
he would.
All right.
He would be your source on that.
Yep.
All right,
This is his
thank
bill.
you.
Okay, Will, you good?
Yes, thank you.
Clark, Anderton, Otto, Healy, Wells, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too, like Bill did this morning, I guess I was a little bit asleep at the wheel on this thing. But this morning, did we vote to amend the House version of this bill?
No, so
To
the
export-
the House version was amended in the Senate and we voted to concur.
And we voted to concur. So we didn't, we just voted to concur with the House amendment on the House, the Senate amendment on the House bill.
We did both. We did SB 4.
Yeah,
We did both. We did SB 4 and we concurred on HB 363.
It probably wouldn't have changed the outcome anyway this morning, but I just don't quite understand. We have two groups, MACO and MML, and we want to treat them like lobbyists, where a lot of the people that end up being legislators up here come up through MML and also MACO. Of course, they got, connections and working relationships with these folks. And it seems like it's been working really well. Has there been, can you cite any violations or anybody that's filed an ethics complaint against a legislator on the fact that they thought MML or MACO was giving them too much or doing too much for them?
I know that there was some issue of an association sending alcohol to members' homes. That was problematic.
Well, that's pretty problematic, means they didn't buy it from me.
So
I'm just
I
kidding.
think there have been concerns raised about things that should not have happened and that would not, that frankly, this is about protecting members and making sure that we are, that all reporting is done correctly and that there's transparency and that, we cannot be accused of engaging in something that, we didn't have control over. If somebody sends alcohol to our house and, the press finds out and it's like, so-and-so delegate got this alcohol from this group and, oh my gosh, this group didn't even have to register as a lobbyist, right? It's not good. So this is important for transparency and accountability purposes.
Well, and the other side of that, the legislator could have, or person could have sent it back to, if they.
That wouldn't make it in the news story, Delegate Clark, you know that.
But, I'm a little taken back with it a little bit because I look at them as somebody to work with. So when we have bills and they make comments on bills either way, then I guess I should be looking at their comments and what they oppose and go along with differently, because I've always looked at them groups as working with us and helping us guide what the things that they need in their communities and in their cities and in their counties. Not that they're looking to lobby us for, large sums of money. I guess they do that.
I understand,
back with that. I'm a little frustrated where it came from, and it's been this way for a very long time, and there had to be a reason that it needed to be changed, and I'm kind of frustrated in understanding, why or whose agenda it could be that drove this to be there.
I understand, and I just want to remind everybody that
We'll have to show
we will
that.
still be working with MML and MACO. We still listen to them. They represent our constituents. We represent their constituents. It's still that we will still have I worked very closely with MML and MACO on several of my bills. I really value the input that they bring, and that won't change at all. Nothing about that will change. Delegate Anderton. Oh, sorry, Chairman Barbe.
Delegate Anderson.
Right on. All right. So, I've been listening to all this, and it's great and whatnot. Trying to lower my hand. There we go. Okay. All right. So I'm not sure who's not aware of this, but I have a pretty weird distinction, I guess. Before I was duly elected to this body, I was a mayor and president of the Maryland Municipal League. So I look at this clearly from a different standpoint. I'm not worried about the trinkets and the gifts and all that mess. I don't take that mess anyway. I ain't got time for that. But the advocacy part is an issue. You're not a lobbyist. They're not lobbyists that work for MML. They are actually mayors and council members who are elected to a board of directors who come up and testify on bills. So, in a pseudo kind of way, we're referring to local duly elected officials such as we are as lobbyists, when clearly that's not the case. But and the questions that arose before my opportunity to speak has kind of tweaked my curiosity. I have a unique distinction of being a past president of MML, which means I get invited to everything that happens at MML, all the conferences and meetings and everything as a past president. And so that clearly does not apply to the rest of the General Assembly. So I think I would like to see us kind of park this bill so we can have Dia come in and answer these questions.
So I've answered all of them.
Not the one I just rose.
The one that you just rose about mayors, individual mayors can still.
No, I didn't say that at all.
It just can't come from MLML funds.
No, I didn't.
Okay, what was your question?
Yes,
Sorry, I missed it
okay.
then.
That's all right. It's no problem. It happens. I miss stuff too.
What you know?
What's that?
You know.
Never. I'm the astute,
Mr. Chairman, I think Dia's on the call.
Is she?
Oh, is she?
Dia?
Oh, there she is. I couldn't see her. She was on
I'm
the
here.
screen.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
she didn't
Oh,
even
for
know.
God's sake. Okay.
It's Easter all
But
over
Delegate
again.
Learmon's doing great.
Oh my God, you just let her hang out there answering all these questions. You're a cruel, cruel person.
Lady, you ain't hear anybody calling your name and you just sit there.
She just appears. She's magical.
Exactly. I'm like Beetlejuice.
I know you from the store like me and we kind of do things a little differently. I know you was enjoying it, but so let me ask a question. I don't know if you and I should talk offline so we can talk.
No. This is Dia's here for Dia is here specifically so we can ask her questions.
Okay, good. Well, then we'll ask the question. So I am past president of one of these organizations that's now being classified as lobbyist, which is weird, but
May I interject? They're not being classified as lobbyists. This says that their gifts, that you can only accept the same gifts from them that you could accept from a lobbyist or from an entity that does business with the General Assembly, like from the hotel where you guys stay during session. I think there is a little bit of confusion.
Yes, there is some confusion because
lobbyists.
I keep hearing the word lobbyist thrown around, and clearly, our locally elected officials aren't lobbyists.
No, they would never, right. They are not lobbyists.
Okay.
Unless they register as lobbyists for, maybe they work for some other thing, but no,
Okay.
they are not they are not.
No, I just, there was a lot of things, like I said, thrown around that I just wanted to be have clarified.
Okay, well, go ahead and ask your question, Dia.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Again, for me specifically, this is an awkward situation now because, we were just told that, like for the conferences, the entire, body has to be invited. Our body has to be invited to every event. Well, I'm past president and so I get invited to different things as past president. So how does that affect me?
I think the gift would have to fall under
Not
one.
gifts. I mean, it's just,
It's a gift. If you're
And so even
invited
if
to
it's
an
not a
event and they're
physical
feeding-
thing.
Ho. Let's let Dia answer the
Sorry.
question. Go ahead, Dia.
So it is a gift if they are feeding you, if they're giving you drinks. But if it's come to my meeting, you guys can always go to any meeting with anyone. It's just when they give you something of economic value. So you come to a meeting, you're good. Somebody takes you to dinner, not good.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Make sense?
I'm thinking of like the conferences and things like that.
So with the
Those
conference,
are their registration fees to that, but they don't apply to me because I'm past president.
so it's my understanding that they allow all state elected officials, all federal elected officials to attend for free. So it's not the Delegate Anderton can come for free. It's that if you are an elected official at the state or federal level, you can come for free.
Right. Well, some of these isn't Delegate Anderton, it's past President Anderton. So, I just want to make sure that, if we're making this classification, that I'm doing the right thing, because it puts me in a very precarious spot, that I didn't ask to be in. I was the president of an advocacy group, and now I'm going to be known as a past president of a quasi lobbyist group. And so I need to make sure I'm doing the right thing for myself and for everyone else. And so, we'll probably have to talk more about this afterwards, because it seems very muddy.
I got you.
And
Yeah.
I'm really not appreciative of that, but it is what it is. So thanks for being here anyway.
We always love it when Dia is here. Okay, next person, Delegate Otto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know when the right time is. I agree with all the discussion we've had here, but I'd move to conform this bill with as the House bill left our jurisdiction.
Well, let's not make any motions until everybody's had a chance to speak. How's that?
Yeah, we
That's
have a
fine. That's why I asked that.
Yeah.
So
We have a motion and a second pending too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll put a pin in it.
All right. Very
And
good.
Healy. Yep. Delegate Healy.
Oh, thank you very much. I agree with most of what's been said so far. I think that this was not a mistake or an oversight or a loophole for MACO and MML. It was a decision that was made by the General Assembly when we passed the last ethics overhaul. And it was for all the reasons that people have been talking about. This is an organization that represents other government officials in the state of Maryland. And they shouldn't be treated the same way that businesses are, because they're not businesses. They're government, they're in the public, they work for the public the same way we do. They work for the taxpayers the same way we do. And they should have a separate kind of status. And if we were able to amend it and deal with the House bill as it was started out without these changes, it would be a different story. But I think this is just the wrong way to go. I think it's a mistake, and I am not going to support it. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate Healy. I'd just like to clarify our relationship with MML and MACO, I hope, is not dependent on us getting free stuff. Like, it shouldn't be. Delegate Healy, I'd like to answer, okay? Because we all do really important work, and we value our relationships with our municipalities and our county governments, and with people like MML and MACO who help us craft legislation so that it works for our counties and works for our municipalities. That will continue. This is just about transparency. It's about making sure, just like MABE and the Association of Community Colleges, just like those entities too, that MACO and MML are treated the same way. So, they're not going to be, mayors are not going to be reclassified as lobbyists all of a sudden. This is simply about gifts and reporting gifts. So I just want to make sure people understand that. Thank you.
Well, if I could respond,
Sure, go ahead, Ann.
Every year, I represent 7 municipalities, and every year 3 or 4 of them have a dinner for the delegation that represents them, which is just the 3 delegates and the senator. And in addition to that, every year the Prince George's Municipal Association has a dinner. And some years they comp us and some years they don't. And sometimes it's when you're a speaker and sometimes it's not. But it's always transparent. It's not, everybody's clear about what they can do. And it's an opportunity for these small municipalities that don't have a lot of revenue to pool their resources and to have their voice heard in the General Assembly. through MACO and MML. And, having once a year breakfast with MML for all the former municipal officials that serve in the legislature, so we can touch base with each other and have conversations about those issues. It happens, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I really don't think it's a good idea to say these things are wrong. And I think when we try to ban stuff and treat these groups as different,
We're not banning.
by influence by giving us a dinner or breakfast or lunch, I think that sends the wrong message. I think that the better way to go is to just keep everything transparent, which it has always been.
So that's what, this is not banning. This is making it transparent. It's saying to do it in a certain way. And those 3 municipalities, they can still do that because the governments are paying, not MML or MACO. And if MML wants to do a dinner with the Prince George's County delegation, it can do that because that's a unit of government, right? Just like our committees are, just like.
Actually, is it really, Dia, is the Montgomery County delegation considered to be the same as the Environment and Transportation Committee? Because I know the caucuses are not.
Yes.
Yes. So recognized regional delegations are legislative units. So Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Western Maryland, Upper Shore, Lower Shore, those are units.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to move on to Delegate Ruth, then Love, then Jacobs, then Wyval, then Wells, in that order. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To me, this is just, it's very simply a public transparency and a public trust issue. Nothing in this bill stops us, as Delegate Lehrman said, nothing stops us from working with MACO and MML and, and from discussing with them and getting their valuable input. But when they are very visibly testifying at many of our hearings, and, the public, if the public knows that they're giving gifts, the public often believes, rightly or wrongly, that those gifts are an influence. I've heard people make statements, where like, oh, a lot of people supported that bill, but MACO opposed it, and well, they just and I just think it's a public trust issue where if we're not getting gifts from them, we can work with them without any concern that the public will perceive that they have undue influence. Thank you.
Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo what Delegate Ruth just said, and a couple things that people have said during this hearing. We work with them and they educate us. They're an advocacy group. These are all things that other groups that are regulated as lobbyists, I understand they're not lobbyists, but other groups that are regulated as lobbyists do. As a former lobbyist, that was my job, to work with legislators, to educate them. And so, and I don't believe that, Justin and Alex, who are great and who I worked with a lot, I don't believe they're former mayors or officials, but the organizations should be regulated like others, like MABE, like the Association of Community Colleges, for the public perception reason, for the role that they play in the General Assembly. So I'll just leave it with, I echo what Delegate Ruth said, and I support the amendments. Thank you.
Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Delegate Healy made some comments kind of sparked some interest in me. And I remember I was on the committee when those votes took place to exempt MML and MACO out of that legislation specifically. And it, it's I know from what I understand, when they in the hearing in the Senate, that these amendments weren't offered, and they were offered at the last second without any opportunity for these groups to make any comments, which is a bit problematic in itself. We use them. I mean, I was mayor for a long time, and used these groups for information. You know, they were a good source of information for municipalities, or counties, which made them kind of unique. So it leads me to my next question is, how are quasi-state organizations treated? And that's a question for Dia.
So what do you mean by quasi-state entities?
Well, I think MML and MACO were kind of under that quasi-state.
Well, let's have an example. Let's say, what's that agency that does all the environmental projects? Why am I blanking on it?
MES is a government.
Yeah.
They're treated as a government entity. I think Delegate Learman hit on this point earlier. So the way the law is currently drafted, there is a special exemption just for MACO and MML, but we have other entities that are made, other associations like ABE, like the Maryland Association of Community Colleges, that are also associations comprised solely of government entities. So you have not necessarily been treating all associations of government entities in the same manner.
And that's part of the confusion. I mean, you know, these MML and MACO were specifically not included when the legislation was passed. And I can't remember how many years ago, but I remember our committee doing it. And the reason why I'm just trying to understand, you know, because they are different. I'm just trying to understand this. It's just it's a shame that you know, when the amendment was offered, that the organizations didn't have a chance to offer some comments of their own, and I think that's why there's a lot of questions now.
So we did have a hearing on SB4. You know, we had a hearing, and not a lot of people showed up, and there weren't a lot of questions. So
with the amendments?
With the amendment, we had a hearing on SB4.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you.
I kept my mouth shut. Delegate Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just added some additional questions after, I guess, listening to Delegate Anderton. So in the scenario he painted, then when is a local elected official representing MACO or MML, and when are they representing their municipality or their county that they're you know, elected to? So it's such a gray area. So if I'm that person, I'm just going to say, well, I'm not, even though I'm president of MML, I'm not representing MML. I'm representing, you know, the town of whatever. So is that my workaround on this? And why are we forcing people in local government to go that route? It doesn't make sense to me.
Dia, do you have a response?
Yes, it's actually kind of simple. Whose credit card is on the table? Is it the Mayor of Rockville's credit card on the table, or is it MML's credit card on the table?
Well, at this point, it's always, after this passes, it's always going to be the Mayor of Rockville's credit card on the table, but then are they eligible to be reimbursed by MML?
No, because if you look at the way the amendment is drafted, it talks about if you are acting on behalf of one of these entities. So if one of these organizations is ultimately paying the bill, then the gift is coming from them. We're going to look at who is the donor. Is the donor the city of Rockville, or is the donor this association?
So that kind of goes to my point then, and I think Delegate Anderton's point then, it's never going to be MML or MACO because this amendment has kind of painted them into that corner. And honestly, I could care less about the gifts. I've never accepted a gift. If I go somewhere, I pay for my own meal, whatever. But to me, it creates, you know, I'm questioning myself right now if I'll ever go to another MML or MACO conference and accept a free registration, because I'm going to be afraid that I'm somehow going to be pinned for violating this new rule.
You wouldn't be pinned. If entity doesn't do it the right way, they're the ones who are in trouble.
Yeah, but so now I have to become the enforcement officer to know, so I have to now question that entity. Did
In
you?
the MML letter that was sent
Law?
out, they specifically noted that the entire General Assembly was invited.
Okay, you and I know that here because we're part of this discussion. So I'm elected, a year or two from now. How am I going to know that? I mean, I just think it's a way to trip.
Okay, well, let me move on to.
Well, can I ask how a gift is defined?
Sure.
Something worth over
The,
$20.
So it's
So
$20.
a gift is something of economic value that you didn't pay for. So we have exceptions that allow you to accept gifts. So the coffee mugs you can accept because it has a value of less than $20. There's an exception for that. The committee dinners you can accept because the law grants an exception for a meal or reception to which an entire legislative unit is invited.
All right. So then,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question though on procedure because Delegate Otto was going to make a motion to remove this amendment, but you had said let everyone speak, but we already have a motion.
Well, we have a motion
and
and
a
a
second
already.
for the
amendments.
for the bill, so they would have to be withdrawn in order for anyone to consider removing the amendment, wouldn't they?
Or they would have to be defeated. I mean, I'm forgetting now, is the motion for the amendments or for the bill itself?
No, the motion is on the bill. There are no amendments.
There are no amendments. Okay, so
Favorable and a
basically,
second on the bill.
so basically it's going to be an
So
up or down
that
vote on
motion
that.
would have to be defeated then for the second.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's right. That's right. Okay, Delegate Wells. Bet you
Thank
thought
you.
we'd never get to you.
I didn't either. So, well, a couple of my questions were answered about the for the conference, but as all of this conversation has been happening, I've always been under the impression that I was never allowed to take anything like a gift from Mako or MML. And so I feel like this is just kind of clarifying what I thought was already supposed to be general practice. So I don't really see what the big deal is, but I kind of always thought that like we don't take, it was always if it's the entire committee that's invited or if it's your entire delegation or the entire General Assembly. I thought that was kind of like the rule of what the basis that we use for this. I'm not really understanding beyond this is clarifying that loophole, how this is really different from what most of us are already currently doing when it comes to how we engage with interest groups. I'll call them interest groups. I won't call them lobbyists, but interest groups. So I guess,
Okay.
Isn't that so?
Yes.
Yeah, but we're in debate, so you don't have to literally ask a question here. So
Okay.
no reason to say, isn't that so? Okay, Delegate Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been sitting here listening to this, and it's popped into my mind. Evidently, years back, that Mako and MML were excluded from being considered to be lobbyists. And I guess this is a question for Dia. Dia, outside groups such as, let's say, the Sierra Club or the Chesapeake Bay Foundation or the motor vehicle dealers or the building groups, are these groups considered to be lobbyists?
Yeah, and the labor unions and anybody who's
Yes, they're all registered
And,
lobbyists.
Okay, so when we as a group accept going out to dinner with them, and because they're the lobbyists for legislation or in their interest of their members, things like that, and then we come back and we vote, and so everything goes on down, and then it's the interim, and we hold a fundraiser, and lo and behold, we get a nice check either from the Car Dealers Association or the president of that association or a member in big standing of, say, Chesapeake Bay Foundation for $500, $1,000, $5,000. How does that work into this whole scheme of things? Because
It has nothing to do with this.
no, wait a minute. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Sorry.
Basically, the only reason that you're getting that donation in most cases is because of your ability to vote on legislation that has some meaning to them. So I guess my question is, when that happens and we accept that kind of money and they come before us, should we be excluding ourselves from voting on something that is of major concern to them?
Well,
and if not,
well,
where's the difference?
Well, Jerry, let me just say something here. I mean, that is very much the subject of what would be a different bill. I mean, it's a fair question, but it's sort of the subject matter of whether or not we should have public financing or whether we should have non-finance. It's a valid philosophical question, but I don't think it's exactly
Well,
to this bill.
You know what? I agree with you 100%. But the point I'm trying to make is we're not talking about these big dollar things like that. We're talking about $20 or $25 from MACO or MML. I mean,
okay, that's closer to the bill.
yeah, we're sitting here debating this for the last hour or so over $20, and we spend time on that.
So this, I think, is actually, I understand what you're saying, Delegate Clark, but in my opinion, adds transparency. That's the point of this, is that our constituents deserve transparency and accountability on, we have to report all of our all of our donations. Each of us individually decides what we're comfortable accepting, and who we're comfortable accepting money from. And, this is a way to just clarify and to put MML and MACO in line with all the other associations out there. Right?
Okay.
So
hold on.
One last statement. Call me a cynic. In my mind, it's somebody got an amendment on a bill in the Senate that had some type of a reason that wasn't necessarily transparency.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. We are going to have to vote on this and get on to other bills. I'm going to recognize Delegate Harrison and Terraza, and that's it. I would really like to vote after that because Delegate Terraza and Delegate Harrison and Terraza are the two people who haven't spoken yet. And if you'll forgive me, I'd like to turn off the debate and then have us vote, unless somebody has a horrible objection to that. So Delegate Harrison, you're next.
Thank you. I just wanted to just to clarify, both MML and MACO, their membership is entirely elected officials. And so, and I guess Dia, just clarify this for me. Their membership is entirely elected officials. And so if there were no membership, there would not be those organizations. And there would not be, if there were no elected officials, local elected officials in MML, local elected officials in MACO, there would not be an MML nor MACO. Is that a correct assumption on my part?
I don't know enough about how MACO and MMLs are structured, how their dues work. So I'm not the appropriate party to answer that.
Okay.
I
think that I'm correct. I think I'm correct on that. They have staff who does the legwork, but the membership is paid by the government entities. So Prince George's County pays, I don't know, X number of dollars to MACO to be a member. Without membership, those organizations would not even exist. And so I guess I kind of understand perhaps what is attempting to be done here. I totally disagree. And I'm just going to stop there.
Okay. Delegate Terraza, and then I hope we can, I know Carl and Charles have spoken before, and I hope you don't mind me cutting it off this point and having us vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two quick things. One is a procedural issue. I'm a little confused if it was a delegate, I forget which delegate had a proposed amendment, but
Charles Otto.
a Delegate Otto had a.
But we have a motion for a favorable
Okay, I got to.
for us, and that takes a live motion takes precedence.
Okay, I guess I'm just a little confused about that because don't you have to move a bill to have an amendment?
We did.
So wouldn't. Right, but
there are no amendments.
Right, but the only time you could move an amendment is while the bill's active.
There are no amendments. This bill came to us already in the.
Actually, she's right. We could amend the bill because it's a live motion.
Oh, I see. You mean to amend the bill.
Yeah, you can't move an amendment when the bill's not active. So I don't know how you would.
The bill's active. It's
right. So that's when you would amend a bill. That's
right.
When
And you know what? I was wrong. Charles Otto could offer amendment right now. I made a mistake.
Okay. And then the second issue is a sort of a substantive issue because, we're talking about gifts, and I don't think any of us have ever had Mako show up in our offices with a wrapped gift. I don't think this is what we're talking about, but the one that sort of struck me was the MML one that Delegate Healy was talking about. If MML wants to bring together, a city, former city officials, for example, that's not a government, that's not a body, right? They couldn't just invite all of the delegates who were elected, who are former city officials, right? Is that right?
Actually,
that's
right
not a unit of government.
Right, it's not a unit of government. So, so under this, could they not do that, or they could do that and it would have to be reported?
They I don't know. That's a good question.
You just have to pay.
You would just have to.
No. Right now, the state of the law is if MML wants to take 7 members of the legislature out to, let's say they want to take buy dinner for all the 7 standing committee chairs in the House, okay? The 6 standing committee chairs, and Ann Healy is the Rules Committee chair, the 7 standing committee chairs. They can do that and they don't have to report it. If this bill passes, they will no longer be able to do that. And they will have to invite everybody either from a committee or from a delegation or from the whole House. And they will have to, which, they can't afford to do, of course, but they then would have to report that, of course, I think. Is that correct? Or do they have to, if a lobbying group takes the Economic Matters Committee out to dinner, do they have to report that?
So I think we need to, it's easier if you compare them to the hotels. So a lobbyist has an event, they can feed you as part of a legislative unit. And because they are a lobbyist, they have reporting requirements. But those same gift rules apply to the hotels where you guys are staying. So can the hotel provide everyone with, an under $20 gift? Yes, they are not a lobbyist, so there's no associated reporting requirements. So if, I think Delegate Healy's example was there were a few municipalities in the jurisdiction that wanted to meet with the legislators from that district. The municipalities could do it if we have, the city of College Park, the city of Hyattsville, who are paying for the meal. What they can't do is have ML pay for a meal for 4 legislators.
So what my question was, and it may not have been Delegate Healy's question.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, my question may have been different, but so my question was, if they just wanted to bring together former municipal people who had been elected, so they can today, but they couldn't in the future.
Correct.
So this would prohibit them. It wouldn't. I understand us wanting transparency, like a reporting requirement, But this would prohibit them from bringing folks together under those circumstances.
Just,
They
no,
can bring you
just-
together, they just can't pay for your lunch.
Right, we can all get together, we just pay.
Well, I'm just going to say this piece on that. I think there's an equity issue when you say, well, you just have to pay. Like if you're saying you're going to gather people together and you say you just have to pay, that really favors people who can afford to pay and not people who can't afford to pay. And I just think, if you're not just talking, I understand like if it's just a lobbying opportunity, but if you're talking about bringing people together, one of the things that works about committee dinners, from my perspective, is that we really get to know each other on the committee. Like we really get to bond as a committee and work well as a committee. So I think that's really important. I'm just going to say on a personal level, if I had to pay for every one of those dinners, I wouldn't be part of that bonding with the committee. So I just think we should keep that in mind when we say, well, you just have to pay.
Well, and yeah, I agree. And I think those dinners are great and they will continue because you can take out a committee because they're a unit, right? So those dinners will continue. And also if you want to do like snacks, like a pastry and coffee, that would be de minimis and it would still, so you could gather for brequest, right?
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. So, I really don't think, I don't
breakfast.
think this is quite as, restrictive. I don't know, as folks think. I don't know. I think yeah. So anyway, thank you.
You know what? Look,
It helps
I want to hold this
clarify.
bill until, I'm going to hold this bill until the end of the calendar today. Let's do some real work. Let's go on to Senate Bill 116.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is identical to House Bill 164 as passed by the House. Move favorable.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the favorable motion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of Senate Bill 116, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the bill passes. Senate Bill 401.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 401 is favorable with amendments. The bill alters statutory provisions that specify the amount of time prior to expiration of tenancy lease that a landlord is required to provide written notice to a tenant with the intent to repossess the property. This bill is statewide. The amendment, the committee amendment, number one, provides for the application of an exception to the standard notice provision for small landlords who have received notice of intent to foreclose, but who are not subject to an order to docket. And the second amendment is just makes conforming changes. I move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, on the amendments. So basically what the amendments do is they get rid of the provision that would give 90 days notice and reduce it to 60 days notice.
60 days.
correct?
That is correct. And 60 days, Mr. Chair, if I may add, is consistent with Montgomery County and Baltimore City.
Okay, and Delegate Vaughn Stewart, you're there someplace, right? You're okay with this, right? You're
Yeah, I
okay
am.
with this. You don't love it, but you're okay with it.
Correct.
Okay. On the amendments, I see a couple of hands up that are probably from the other thing. So here we go. Okay. All right. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the bills before us as amended.
Move Senate Bill 401 as amended, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any Opposed?
No.
Okay, so are there any Republicans who support the bill? Carl, are you opposed or in favor? Okay, so I think it's a party line vote. And did Jalisi ever join the meeting? No, okay. The bill passes.
No, he's still missing.
Okay, so 7. Okay, Senate Bill 673.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill 673 establishes an urban agricultural program within the Maryland Department of Agriculture. This is identical to House Bill 269, but a technical amendment to fix a code reference needs to be made. Move the amendment on the technical code amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, on the amendments, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. The bill's before us is amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of Senate Bill 673 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill.
Opposed.
Who's
Mr.
Delegate Parrott is opposed. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I need to be recorded as abstaining.
Oh, you're excused under the rule. Okay.
Right.
Right. It's not an abstention. It's an excused under the rule.
Excuse, right.
Of interest. Right. Okay. The bill passes. Senate Bill 674.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a concurrence for House Bill 1207, which is the cross file?
Yeah, we do. You know, let's do the concurrences last. But it's
Okay.
674, I see. 1207 is concurrence. And all right, you're right. Let's vote on 674 and then we'll do the concurrence last.
Okay, thank you,
do
Mr.
concurrence first, and you can conform the Senate bill.
Oh, okay. All right. So the motion, this is House Bill 1207. The motion is to concur in the Senate amendments. And what the Senate amendments do is they add language requiring the commission, the Environmental Justice Commission, that is, to hold public listening sessions in different geographical locations of the state and restores the language that directs 6 of the commission members to be jointly appointed by the presiding officers. The motion is to concur. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that, or we'll proceed to a vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. Here, let me sign this thing. All right, so let's do Senate Bill 674.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendments conform the bill to House Bill 1207 as we approved it. So I move the amendments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Delegate Parrott is opposed. The bill passes. Okay. Senate Bill 888. That would be David.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 888 was voted out of subcommittee favorably with the traditional 3 amendments that our committee puts on any speed camera bills. Senate committee amendments number 1 require the fines collected after costs to be remitted to SHA to be used solely for assistance in establishing speed reduction measures and making roadways and pedestrian safety improvements in the area. Number 2, second amendment, requiring certain signage and real-time display of drivers' traveling speed. And amendment number 3 is, that's known as the Wyville Amendment. Amendment number 3 is the sunset of the bill in 5 years. Move the amendment.
Let me just ask, is there a second on the motion, on the amendments?
Second.
Okay. Did we get a letter and a vote tally sheet from the Anne Arundel County House delegation saying they were okay with those amendments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The answer is yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right. On the amendments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, on the bill as amended, this is a photo radar bill, just so that everybody is aware. It's for Anne Arundel County, and it has the typical Environment Transportation Committee amendments on it. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Jacobs, Parrott, anybody else? Otto, was your hand up?
Yeah, against.
Okay, those 3 are opposed. The bill passes. Senate Bill 901.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our committee is secondary on this bill. Appropriations is primary. They voted favorable. The bill establishes the Resilient Maryland Revolving Loan Fund within the Maryland Emergency Management Agency, or MEMA. There are no amendments. I move the bill.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Delegate Wyval.
Oh, thank you. Could you tell me what the vote was in appropriations?
I don't have that. Kristen, do you know?
The mandate stayed to $5 million a year.
Sorry.
Is that still in the bill?
The mandate's out of the bill, and I can pull up the appropriations vote. I'm just looking for it in my email.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yeah, one follow-up point. As Kristen said, there's no mandate now in the bill. $25 million to establish the fund has been included in the capital budget.
It's already there.
I found the vote. It was 21.
Thanks,
Unanimous. With 2 people absent.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Are we on the amendments or no, there's no amendments. It's straight favorable. Okay. All those.
Just a minute. I gotta go.
What?
I have to leave. Sorry.
Bye. Okay, she's excused. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the bill passes unanimously. Back to Senate Bill 4. I have something to say. I'm voting for this bill.
Mr. Chairman, I had my hand up and I offered an amendment earlier.
Yep.
Was considerate to hear the discussion, and I offer it again.
Okay, what's your amendment?
To put this in the posture of the House bill that left our jurisdiction and from the House of Delegates.
Is there a second?
No.
Second?
Second.
Okay. I am personally going to oppose that amendment. I think we should vote.
That's cool.
On this bill, but we have the amendment before us, and we have Lehman and then Delegate Wyval on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I had wanted to ask Dia Daly a question before. I was going to tell you before I felt I could vote on the bill, the amended Senate bill with the MML MACO language. I don't know if she's still on here. She was.
The lovely and talented Dia Daly is now with me. So unmute yourself, turn the rock and roll off and unmute yourself.
I'm here.
Oh, hi there, Dia. So as the member of this body representing District 21, where the University of Maryland's College Park flagship campus is, I wanted to know how the University of Maryland is treated in the law and its in-house lobbyists.
So they are a government entity. They are not an association of government entities. They are a government entity. So their gifts are not restricted. Although, we do discourage you from taking extravagant gifts from government entities.
So anyone, when you say they, anyone lobbying for the university, we all know who lobbies for the main lobbyist, but there are several, but I'm thinking one in particular who it does not appear is actually registered as a lobbyist, although that is clearly by any definition what the person does. You're saying that the law just doesn't address those folks in their capacity of lobbying for the College Park campus in particular.
So a state employee whose job it is to represent the state before the General Assembly, before executive branch agencies, is not a lobbyist under the lobbying law.
Okay, that seems inconsistent to me, but thank you.
Delegate Wyval. On
Hey,
the
Mr.
amendment.
Chair.
And this
Yes.
is the amendment that strips the MML MACO language off the bill.
Yes, I did speak with the bill sponsor, and he is fine with putting the bill in the same posture as the House bill.
Okay. Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just also had a quick question for Dia. So I thought Delegate Harrison actually made a really interesting comment earlier when she was talking about who funds MML and MACO, and I legitimately didn't actually know the answer. So I pulled both of their websites up, and it looks like they do, both of them have a number of corporate sponsors. If you go down the list, BG&E, Exelon, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Care First, and on, they each have seemingly a few dozen corporate sponsors. My question is there an analog for that in state government? I mean, in other words, would it, like, for example, Prince George's County or Montgomery County be allowed to sort of have a corporation fund its lobbying activity in that way?
I don't know. It would have to be a gift from a corporation to a government that probably couldn't be earmarked for lobbying. I would say under the state ethics law, and this is me putting back on my old ethics commission hat, I don't think the ethics commission would allow a corporation to fund a specific pin in a state agency.
Got it. Okay.
It's very different.
Brief, and thank you, Dee. I appreciate your help as always. And Mr. Chairman, I guess just on the amendment, I'm going to be voting against the amendment and for the bill. I think this is a pretty reasonable and common sense thing. Obviously, if you go look at the gift laws, our gift laws have a million different loopholes in them about either whether it's dinners or de minimis gifts or ceremonial gifts or when you're a speaker. I mean, if you put our ethics gifts laws against the other 50 states, you'll see that we have more loopholes than just about any of them as it stands. I don't think that disallowing MACO and MML to give us substantial gifts that are more than de minimis is going to have really any impact on virtually any of us or our relationships or how we legislate or anything. And I also just think that if you're looking for a distinction between MACO and MML and local governments on the other hand, and by the way, I would actually support a bill that limits gifts from local governments in the same way. But if you're looking for a distinction, I think the idea that MACO and MML seem to be substantially funded by corporations, for-profit corporations, in a way that obviously our local government lobbying arms are not, to me is a substantial enough distinction that I will be happily voting against the amendment.
Delegate Love, Delegate Clark, Delegate Amprey, Delegate Anderton, and then I'm going to call the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be voting against this amendment. When we see MACO and MML, they are coming in hard, either for or against a bill. And for that reason, I don't think that we should be accepting gifts from them. Thank you.
Delegate Clark.
I want to follow up a little bit on Delegate Learman's questions about the University of Maryland with Dia.
Lehman. It was Lehman, not Learman.
Lehman. I'm sorry, Lehman. Delegate Vaughn just brought up an interesting thing about corporate sponsorships of MACO and Maryland Municipal League. The University of Maryland receives tremendous corporate sponsorships also. And they have a lot of different entities there, the Alumni Association, the Football Sports Association, and this, that, and the other. And is their lobbyist an employee of the University of Maryland?
Yes, he is an employee of the University of Maryland.
So if they can afford to hire a lobbyist, that is an employee. These other groups and these other organizations at the university that also lobby for more funding for the university or a sports program or a new arena and things like that, they're separate entities.
I don't know enough about the ins and outs of the University of Maryland, where to write my kids' tuition check to be able to answer that.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question is then, with the issue we had with the medical part of the university and some of the money that they were spending, and not too long ago, we passed a bill to make that part of the university not successful to the PIO ordinances, some of the ordinances. You remember that?
I think I think University of Maryland Medical System is a separate legal entity that's separate and distinct from the University of Maryland Medical School or the University System of Maryland. I believe that it's a private entity, but I'll defer to the experts on that.
And that was going to be my next question. There again, I'm going to vote for this amendment. I think we're just splitting hairs. I don't think there's any fact-based reality as to why we need to do this. And I mean, if we wanted to sit down and start going through every little entity in state government, such as University of Maryland and, you know, different campuses and stuff like that, they all lobby for their own interests. So I'm going to vote for the amendment.
Delegate Amprey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question for Dia as far as, this actually is a quick question. Everyone has said that, but this actually is. As far as a legislative, as far as a government body, do caucuses like the Black Caucus or the Latino Caucus, do those count as bodies that would be able to, they would not be, or just, I just want to get that.
So caucuses are not legislative units, nor are subcommittees. So your legislative units are going to be the full General Assembly, the full House, the full Senate, a standing committee, or a recognized regional delegation. But once you delve down a little bit further, they're not legislative units.
Yeah, just want to clarify.
And let me give you the rationale for that, because this has come up in the past. Any organization that you can choose to join really isn't a legislative body, because then you could have like the left-handed Hindus of Annapolis, and that would be me. Delegate Anderton, last word before we vote. You need to unmute, dude.
I too am left-handed.
But you're not
the Hindu part. We can discuss later.
Okay.
Open the negotiations. Real quick, I just correct a misnomer that was stated earlier about corporate sponsorships with MML and MACO. Those corporate sponsorships do not fund MML and MACO. They pay for those events that everybody likes to go to in Ocean City. You know, when I see you all up in secrets, that's paid for by corporate sponsorships. It is not paid for by tax dollars. Tax dollars that are contributed by the municipalities go to the operation of MML and pay the salaries of the advocates who work on behalf of 157 municipalities and 24 jurisdictions in MACO. So I just wanted to clarify that if that starts to get tossed around by some people who are looking online at stuff, which is cool. I like looking online at stuff too. But we can't believe everything that we see online. That it is meant, the corporate sponsorships are paid for the events that people go to socialize and network after the classes that you take at the conference, which are funded by due-paying entities like my hometown Del Mar. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. If that's swaying anybody's opinion on corporate this, corporate that, it's apples and oranges. We're talking about advocacy versus entertainment. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, and go do what you got to do.
Okay,
Got it.
Let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment to strip off MACO and MML signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no.
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 You know what? Let's do a roll call.
Roll it.
Roll call on the amendment.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Stein,
No.
Holmes,
Yes.
Learman,
No.
Fraser Hidalgo,
No.
Otto.
Charles?
He said yes, but he's muted.
It's your amendment, man.
Yeah, it's a yes.
He's
His thumbs up.
Yes.
Ivo,
Yes.
Ampray,
No.
Silberstein,
Yes.
Wells,
No.
Love,
No.
Ruth,
No.
Stewart,
No.
Lehman,
Yes.
Harrison.
Andrea? Is she with us?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to find my cursor again. I'm sorry. I just got confused real quick. I had a brain freeze. On the amendment.
Yeah, the amendment to take MML and the MACO off.
Okay. Yes.
Tressa.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Boyce.
No.
Clark.
Yes.
Jalisi. Still missing. Okay. Anderson.
Yes.
Gilchrist.
No.
Healy. She's excused. Okay. Chairman.
Chairman votes no, and it looks like 11 to 11,
That's correct.
which means the
Wow.
amendment fails.
Yep.
No, tie goes to the runner.
All,
Tie goes to the runner.
all of that debate for a tie? Oh my.
Healy was a yes.
Yeah, but that's a real debate, though. I mean, you should be happy you actually were in a debate where the
That we
outcome
actually almost did something good.
I think it's clearly an example of democracy in action.
11 to 11 is a.
I think the chairman
There's no
and the
decision.
offerer of the amendment need to have a challenge, and we'll see. So,
That's a new.
We'll
I
do
don't
a
know
push-up.
about that, man.
We'll do a push-up challenge. Okay.
Yeah, we gotta go into extra
Mr.
innings
Chairman.
of debate.
Okay, I move the bill. I think there was a standing motion to move the bill favorable.
Yep.
So in a second.
And it was seconded. Motion's before us. I'm going to vote for the bill. Delegate Lehman, do you want to say something?
I just want to say, in all honesty, I think that's one of the best discussions and debates we've had in a long time. I really do. I mean that.
Yeah, it is. And let's not make it a habit. Okay. Okay, roll call
On a favorable motion,
on a favorable motion.
Vice Chair Stein.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Learman.
Yes.
Fraser Hidalgo.
Yes.
Otto.
no,
Jacobs.
No.
Wyville.
No.
Amprey.
Yes.
Silverty.
No.
Wells.
Yes.
Love.
Yes.
Ruth.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Harrison.
I'm going to take a moment to explain my vote. I'm going to vote yes, but I will say I don't like the bill. The membership of these two organizations, I was not speaking of the funding earlier, I was speaking of the membership. The membership is solely government entities, and without that membership, there would not be an organization. And so I'm going to take a cue from my Prince George's County mate and say yes.
Tressa.
Yes.
Parrot.
No.
Boyce.
Yes.
Clark.
No.
Jalisi. Anderton.
I'm still unsure how this is going to affect me because, I have just a little bit of a different situation being past president. But aside from the amendment that just really mucks everything up, the rest of this bill is in the same posture as the House bill that I voted for. So I think I'm gonna vote yes.
Gilchrist.
Yes.
And Healy. Still absent. Excused. Mr.
Chairman, Chairman wants to explain his vote. I'm going to vote for the bill. anybody who watched this debate is probably going to get either one of two ideas about legislators and about this issue. Let me say that ethics issues are sort of cast as sunshine and daisies and always a slam dunk, no-brainer argument, and they're not. These are complex issues. Every situation is different. And I know there's some people who will despise those who voted against this bill or for the amendment, and they'd be wrong to do that. These are tough issues. I don't particularly like this bill either, but on balance, I will grudgingly vote for it because I represent Gaithersburg and Rockville, and they are represented by MML. And MML is not a wealthy organization, but on balance, I suppose I'll have to vote for it.
It'll be an interesting floor debate.
I'm not defending
I'm
it.
looking forward to it, and thank you for the warm up, everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
I haven't had enough debates on the floor this year.
I know.
Nothing on the P3s.
Yeah, that's right. What was the vote total, just out of curiosity?
It was 16-6.
Okay. All right. Well, there. I wore you out for the floor session. Go.
We still have one more concurrence.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
My
You're
bill.
right. Oh, yeah.
HB 363.
HB 363, the Maryland Public Ethics Law, retaliation for reporting. And basically, this motion conforms this bill to what we just did, correct?
Correct.
Second.
Motion to concur.
Aye.
And there's a second. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, the ayes had it. Okay. Ta-ta.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.